Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. There is so much that I want to tell all of you about right now, but unfortunately, I can't. The things that I do want to tell you about, however, I will just briefly mention. First of all, there's Dave, who is doing good, minus a little thing that he had to go through just recently. That was pretty crazy. There's also my life, which is kind of changing right now, and I will say for the good. There's also a new job that I just got, which is absolute insanity. Wait till you hear what old Joe is now doing, and I promise you, it is not the Hershey Club, and there's a lot more as well. But for right now, I can only briefly hit on these things, and I promise you that very soon I will be bringing you the full details on all of these things. And one last thing to mention before we begin this video, there is new After Prison Show merchandise available now. There will be a link pinned down in the comments section where you can go get your summer apparel After Prison Show merchandise, now available. But with hitting all of you with this proverbial ton of bricks first and foremost, what do you say we just go ahead and dive head first into this video? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and in this video I'm going to be telling you all about two very crazy stories. These are probably two of the craziest stories I've ran across thus far yet, and I can almost with certainty guarantee that these two stories will absolutely shock you. This first story that I want to tell you about deals with another real live monster. And Thursday, this guy was just sentenced to life in prison. Crazy damn thing about it is when I tell you all about this guy, you're probably going to think just like I think, this guy should have been in prison serving life a fucking long time ago. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce you to 56-year-old, 9-time felon, Charles Robert Rancier, who on Thursday was just sentenced to life in prison plus 20 years for less than a gram of meth and also a $100,000 fine. Now, I don't even understand why this guy ended up with a fine at all. This guy is serving life now. Where or how do they honestly expect this guy to pay this fine? Not that that matters. The most important thing about this is the fact that this guy is behind bars and will spend the rest of his life there. But if you're wondering what this guy received this life sentence for, well, before I tell you that, let me just go ahead and give you a little of the background of this guy's criminal history, which, as the story says, this guy has a lengthy criminal history of committing sex acts on vegetables and also children's clothes. Oh my God. I mean, I don't even know. What the fuck is wrong with people? But on Thursday, Charles Robert Rancier received this life sentence for tampering with evidence. Now, when I hear about this guy's criminal history dealing with sex acts on vegetables and also children's clothing, and then I hear that he was sentenced to life for tampering with evidence, that sounds pretty fucking disturbing to me. Tampering with evidence. Or maybe better yet, contaminating evidence. That's a pretty sick thought, actually. And this charge that he had for tampering with evidence stems from an incident back in March of 2015. Crazy thing about that is back in March of 2015, I myself was still sitting in prison. Down to my last 7 months in prison. So as I'm sitting in prison serving the last 7 months of a 7-year prison sentence, this guy was just getting arrested for tampering with evidence. Now, I can promise you this story gets a hell of a lot crazier than this. In fact, at this point, we are just barely sticking the tip in. You know, that's probably the worst damn analogy I could have used for a story like this. But back in March of 2015, an incident began with a Texas state trooper. He was on some sort of a service road when he noticed a children's slide there on the service road. Now, I don't exactly know why a children's slide would be just sitting right there on some sort of a service road. I don't even really know what a service road is, unless there was some sort of creepazoid pedophile motherfucker lurking somewhere in the distance using this children's slide as some children bait. That's pretty fucking disturbing to think about. But this Texas state trooper noticing this slide there and probably thinking the same thing that I'm thinking hearing about this, that there was some sort of a creepazoid pedophile motherfucker lurking somewhere in the distance, he got out and began to investigate. And wouldn't you know, just a short distance away, somewhere in the near vicinity, whatever that word is, somewhere in the near vicinity, he found old Charles Rancier, 56-year-old 9-time convicted felon for charges stemming from sex acts on vegetables and children's clothes. He found old Charles Rancier just sitting there in his truck. And what this state trooper discovered when he walked up on this truck, well, this has all the telltale signs of a fucking real-life monster that he was walking up on in this truck. In this truck, this state trooper not only saw Charles Rancier, but sitting right beside him, right next to him in this vehicle, was a nicely laid out little girl's swimsuit and some lube. and also a syringe. And this is a completely off the wall type of thought right here, but I just think to myself, like, what could this guy possibly say to the state trooper to try to explain what this guy was probably seeing? He sees this guy sitting in the truck right next to this little girl's swimming suit with some lube and a syringe. Like, how in the fuck could that ever possibly be explained? But I guess old Charles Rancier decided that this didn't even need to be explained, because what he did next was he began to fight with this state trooper while trying to break apart that syringe that contained that drug paraphernalia. I guess he wasn't even too worried about the swimsuit or the lube or the children's slide that was sitting over there. His main concern was, this guy's not gonna catch me with these drugs. But obviously his attempts to break apart and destroy this drug paraphernalia failed, because ultimately he was charged with that possession of meth, which got him that 20 additional years in prison plus that $10,000 fine. And I guess it was him trying to destroy that syringe, which also got him that tampering with evidence charge that led to him getting the life sentence that he did. But if you think that this isn't crazy enough just yet, I promise you it still gets even more crazy. Because what police discovered when they searched this guy's vehicle is even more monstrous. And what it was that police did find was some melted candle wax, some additional children's clothing, balloons, Barbies, candy, male enhancement pills, duct tape, rope, and also a cooler full of frozen cucumbers. I can't even begin to imagine what this guy was planning for or hoping to do with all of this shit that he had. Obviously, he was planning on doing like the most heinous shit possible. I can only imagine what police were thinking and saying as they were finding these things, like asking him, hey, what's up with this cooler full of frozen cucumbers, Barbies, candies, duct tape, rope, male enhancement pills, lube, melted candle wax? What exactly were you planning to do? I mean, this guy was like a pedophile doomsday prepper. What the f? And you know, when I first mentioned this story, I told you that I felt like this guy should have had a life sentence long before this incident took place back in March of 2015. And let me just further justify why I feel that way by telling you a little more about this guy's criminal past. Some of his prior convictions, which by me telling you what he was just sentenced for probably won't even seem that damn shocking. But back in 2012, this guy was charged with deviant sex acts involving a squash. Yes, a squash, like the vegetable. And to think about being locked up with a charge, deviant sex acts involving a squash, and somebody asking, what are you locked up for? Now, I know this is going to sound weird, I know, but just hear me out. I know it's going to sound kind of crazy. I'm locked up for deviant sex acts involving a squash. In 2014, this guy was caught on a baseball field butt ball naked, wearing nothing other than women's stockings and having sex with yet another vegetable. He also has a manslaughter charge of an Arizona state trooper, as well as a DUIM. For those of you who don't know what a DUIM is, that is driving under the influence of meth. Again, this guy should have been serving life a long time ago. That whole manslaughter charge involving an Arizona state trooper, how exactly did he not get the death penalty for that? I don't know. But I do hope that wherever they do send this guy, he gets exactly what he deserves every single day for the rest of his life that he's gonna spend locked up. This next story that I want to tell you about is completely off topic, but it is just as crazy nonetheless. And this story stems from Cincinnati, where they just recently had a council meeting talking about the epidemic of heroin and heroin overdoses in that city. And the first thing to mention with all of this is that heroin is a major epidemic that is basically plaguing this entire country and probably the entire damn world. But in the city of Cincinnati alone, last year they had 74 heroin overdoses where those people actually died. And this year, and being only halfway through this year, they've already had 51 overdoses where those people died as well. And at this council meeting, they said that the city would be spending something like $100,000 on this medicine called Narcan, which basically reverses the effects of an overdose. And it's with all of these things being mentioned that what they were trying to debate at this council meeting was that when people call in for an overdose, hey, Charlie over here, he's overdosing and dying. Are you talking about Charlie Robert Rancier? Oh yeah, fuck him. Just go ahead and let him die. But what they were debating is that when people call in for these overdoses, should first responders even respond? Should they even go out there and try to bring these people back? Because they're saying that the city will be spending $100,000 on this medicine, Narcan, and that a lot of these calls are for the same individuals over and over, and they feel like these people just think that they can just go out there and overdose and the city's just going to come bring them back to life so they can go out there and continue to do more heroin. So essentially the debate was, whether or not to just let these people who are overdosing die. Should they even respond to these overdose calls? And there even was a little buzz at this meeting about whether or not they should privatize emergency medical services. Privatizing emergency medical services kind of reminds me of what they're doing privatizing prisons. And the reason why they privatize prisons is because they can make a ton of money from doing so. So I wonder what would happen if they privatized medical emergency services. Private prisons, private medical. It seems the whole damn world is turning privatized. And maybe it's all in an effort just to make $1. Hey, look, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about these two fucking crazy stories. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world, never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day.